Hello, Johnny London here, once again. Now, at the end of last week's episode, I did leave you on something of a cliffhanger. Not intentionally, I might add, that's just the way things turned out. So anyway, today, let's have a little bit of a look and see what happened regarding the issue I had with the drive of the boat. Well, I think I better get the hatch up and have a little bit of a look and see what's going on with the loss of propulsion that I had yesterday. I check the correct operation of the gear selector. It looks okay to me. The throttle linkage seems fine too. Let's see what happens with the engine running. It looks like I've got drive now. And in reverse too. Well, I've had a look at the linkages. There's two of those that are controlled from this thing here, the Morse control. One does the throttle on the engine and one does the forward and reverse on the gearbox, and those linkages look okay. Nothing's come adrift, certainly, and they seem to be responding as they should. That was my main sort of concern. I thought one of those might have come off, probably the gearbox one, but it hasn't. So now I'm just going to check the oil level in the gearbox because, you know, maybe that's a little bit low and that might have caused that symptom to happen. So I'll just get a 19mm spanner and have a look at that. I suspect I may have gotten to the bottom of the cause now. Actually, I've just checked the dipstick on the oil of the gearbox, and this thing's notoriously difficult to check. It's one of those things in the boating world that everybody hates, but they've never done anything about it. It's a silver dipstick and the oil's almost clear, so you can't see where the level is. Added to that, you have to screw it all the way back in for the markings on the dipstick to mean anything. So it's just a double faff. I mean, why they don't just do it differently in some way, who knows, but that's how it's always been, so that's how it's always going to be. So what I do, I put the, you know, after I put the stick in, I put it on a bit of paper, and then you can just kind of see the oil marks the paper, and you can usually just about see where the oil is. And it's got oil, there's no problem there, but it's just on the very bottom mark. And I think it should be somewhere between the bottom and top mark. Obviously makes sense, doesn't it? So I'm going to give it you know, a cup full of oil. I suspect what's happened some time ago, I lost the washer out of the nut underneath the gearbox, which is where you undo the nut and drain the oil to service the gearbox. And I've since found that washer. It's just a little metal sort of bendy washer, and I suspect maybe there's not an absolutely perfect oil seal, and over a period of time just a tiny little drip has come and you know, just caused a slight attrition of the oil. So what I'll do is I'll put a cup full of oil in, and when I do the next service I'll make sure I've got that washer on hand, and I'll put that back on the nut, and then everything will be fine. So looks like job done. I use this funnel to make life easier. Well, that looks spot on now. So to sum up then, I had a bit of a loss of drive. It was particularly noticeable sort of at high revs. That's when it sort of started to happen really. I suppose the oil being a bit low in the gearbox, getting quite hot, getting a bit thinner as well, losing some of its viscosity, and that's when it showed up as being a problem. I've checked the drain nut underneath the gearbox, and that was a little bit oily around it. So what I definitely need to do is next time I'm doing the engine service, be ready with a new washer to go under there, and you know, tackle that all in one hit while I'm doing the service. So I've put a cup full of oil, and presumably that will last you know, a pretty long time. I mean, it's almost due for another service soon anyway, and I haven't done too much sort of hours over, you know, over the summer really, because of course I've got the solar, so I don't run the engine needlessly. So there we go. Obviously that's the thing I now know, is if your gearbox oil gets a little bit low, then you'll lose your drive, but everything's fine for now, and I'll make sure that I do that little washer thing at the next service. Well, as you'll have gathered, there's still a little bit more to tell about that story, but you'll have to bear with me, because next week I've coming up for you a special about Milton Keynes town centre. Won't that be exciting? So in the meantime, stay safe.